Funding for Overheard with Evan Smith is provided in part by Hilco Partners, a Texas government affairs consultancy, and by Claire and Carl Stewart.
I'm Evan Smith. She'll step down shortly as the president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America after more than a dozen years on the job. Her memoir, Make Trouble, Standing Up, Speaking Out, and Finding the Courage to Lead, has just been published. She's Cecile Richards. This is Overheard.
Let's be honest. Is this about the ability to learn, or is this about the experience of not having been taught properly?
How have you avoided what has befallen other nations in Africa? And
you could say that he made his own bed, but you caused him to sleep in it.
You know, you saw a problem and over time took it on. And let's start with the sizzle before we get to the steak. Are you going to run for president?
I think I just got an F from you, actually. This is over.
Cecile Richards, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Nice to be home.
Thank you very much. Yes, you are indeed home. Was the plan all along that you would depart as the book arrived? Did you time this?
I didn't, but it's kind of worked out because I started writing the book months ago.
Right.
And but I'm finishing up my time at Planned Parenthood and I'm on book tour. So yeah, it's all kind of come together, and I don't know, it's fun.
My sense, knowing you as I have for years, is that you would be liberated to speak your mind regardless of whether you were about to be unemployed. Mm-hmm. Right? This book would not be any different.
I hate how you say that, unemployed.
Yes, but it's technically the case. Yes, I suspect you're not going to be not busy or not doing things.
Right.
But the point is, you would have, had you been in the position, given the way that you've lived your life, you would have been as candid in that job as you will be kind of going forward, right?
Yes, I believe so. And obviously, I've had 12 incredible years at Planned Parenthood. It's been the job of a lifetime. It's such an important movement and organization. I think it's time to make room for someone else. I think that's what good, I hope good organizers do.
Is that what it's about? Is it about giving somebody else the opportunity to step up, or had you basically done everything you'd come to do and decided that your time and energy could be redirected more productively somewhere else?
Well, I think in the fight for reproductive rights and women's rights, the time is never over. It's not like we ever finish what we're.
Problem solved, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Someone said to me the other day, I can't believe we're still fighting for women's rights. I said, are you kidding? We're going to be fighting for them for the rest of eternity. But because we have to make progress. It's not because, we have done a ton at Planned Parenthood. I feel so proud of these last 12 years. We've gone from 3 million supporters to now more than 11 million supporters, actually, which is fantastic. Yeah. And if you're trying to, measure or count, that's more than twice the membership of the National Rifle Association. So I think it's a good measure. But one of the things that was really important to me as an organizer was to bring in another generation of young people, and we've invested a lot in them, and they're leading all over the country. Some of them are running for office. It's fantastic. And I think that as leaders, we have the obligation to bring new people in and also move aside.
This is a moment to let the new generation take over. So you made the NRA comparison, and I have to take the baton here, or take the bait and say, if the NRA has such a small membership compared to Planned Parenthood, why does the NRA seem to be so much more influential in determining the outcome of policies set, laws passed, and elections won and lost?
Well, because I think actually they've been at it a lot longer, and this is a pretty recent development. In fact, when I came into Planned Parenthood, part of the reason is that we are an excellent healthcare provider. 1 in 5 women in the country come to us for healthcare, and millions of people every year. But the truth was we weren't able to provide healthcare as much anymore, and particularly here in Texas, which we can talk about, because of the laws that were being passed. And so it was really a recognition that we had to get serious about not only providing healthcare, but being a movement again, and being a political movement that held people accountable who were in office. And I think we have done an amazing job. And in fact, again, as long as we're going to get into this subject, Fox News last week did a poll, national poll, and I'm sure it pained them to release this information. But in their national poll, Planned Parenthood was the most popular organization in the country. Right. And that is, so we have a long way to go, but I do think we're making huge progress. And even though under this president, which we could go through the list of horribles, I think, against women, we did enormous good under President Obama. Actually, one of the most, and I talk about it in my book.
Yes, you do.
Getting birth control for 62 million women in this country, covered at no copay.
Right.
revolutionary. And that was one of the things that happened under the Affordable Care Act.
The numbers you alluded to in the Fox News poll are noteworthy, but they also suggest to me, if you're getting those kinds of numbers, it's not just Democrats, it's not just liberals, it's not just progressives. There are people of all ideological stripes, of all parties, of all geographies, who are supporting the organization. So why does only one side seem to step up and speak out publicly on behalf of Planned Parenthood? If you have supporters in the numbers that the poll suggests, you would think that you would have people on both sides speaking up and stepping out and speaking up.
Well, I do think, I'll give you two examples. One, I do think that's why the Republican Party is in trouble right now, is because women increasingly, and not just Democratic women see this administration as taking aim with both barrels at women. And in fact,
not just on this issue.
Not just on this issue.
Or the bucket of issues that Planned Parenthood is concerned with.
But it's interesting. I think Planned Parenthood is sort of iconic and a placeholder for the idea of that women should be equal in society and have equal access to health care and other things. But the other thing I would point out is this last year, as you know, we were in the crosshairs of the Trump administration as well as Congress. Paul Ryan pledged that, by that first February, that a bill defunding Planned Parenthood and repealing Obamacare would be on the president's desk. I'm here to say, actually, that didn't happen, and our doors are still open all across America.
Right.
But that is in large part because two Republican women, who I think can never get too much credit, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Susan Collins from Maine, stood up to their party and voted for women. And I think there are a lot of other Republicans I know within the party who would like to be voting that way, and they are afraid of being primaried by the right in the party. And that's what we've seen in Texas as well.
This is the moment we're in politically right now, where people say, I need to do what's right for the country. I need to do what's right for my district or my constituents or my friends and neighbors. Country over party is great theoretically, but when it comes time to vote, it's almost always party over country. The exceptions that you gave are the exceptions that prove the rule, are they not?
Well, I think, look, we're seeing, who knows what will happen this November, but of course we've seen all kinds of things that are not politically predictable.
Right.
So first,
beginning with the election of this president.
Well, and the next day after his inauguration, the largest marches in the history of the United States of America by women. No one predicted that. Then we've seen this last year, again, in Virginia, a state that everyone says is a bellwether, right? Not only did they elect the governor with, I think, a 22-point gender gap, but the first transgender woman elected to the Virginia Assembly. We saw the first two Latinas elected. African-American women determinative in the Alabama Senate race. We just saw a woman Supreme Court justice elected in Wisconsin. Against. So to me, I think all bets are off now. And I do believe women of all stripes, not only Democratic women, and not only women, are saying we've had enough. And actually, I think women, and again, that's part of the reason I wrote the book, is I think women are really shaking the foundation of this country. And I think this November is going to be fascinating.
I want to talk about the book and the stuff about you in the book and your family in the book, but I want to tie what we just talked about to something at the end of this book, which is an anecdote that is said in February of 2017, not long after President Trump is elected. You are ferried off from your home in New York to New Jersey to meet at the Trump Golf Club with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump to talk about Planned Parenthood.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Yes.
Tell the story.
What do you want to know?
Well,
how improbable that is.
It's not a secret. It's in the book. I'm not breaking news.
And if you want the details, you got to read the book.
But so you go off to meet with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner to talk about Planned Parenthood. And as you tell the story, I'm going to now paraphrase this. You tell me if I got this wrong.
Or I'll tell the story.
You tell the story.
Okay,
you tell the story.
Yeah.
Good.
No,
well, you seem reluctant. I don't want to,
No, not a bit. No. Basically, I'd gotten news through an intermediary that Ivanka Trump wanted to talk about Planned Parenthood. And as reluctant as I was to go to that golf course and talk to them, I thought, I'll go anywhere and talk about the work we do. And if I can have any influence, because, of course, the president...
Were you optimistic going in? Did you think, well, maybe, in fact, there's going to be a chance for us to come to some...
Yes, I thought, and the president himself, during the campaign, had said, Planned Parenthood does great work. I know a lot of women who've gotten great health care from them.
That's true.
All this, and yet we're going to defund them. And so I thought, well, there's something there that they know about Planned Parenthood. So I told him, I said, look, we are doing amazing work, and also all the money that you're talking about defunding has nothing to do with abortion. This is money that actually goes for cancer screenings. It goes for birth control. It goes for all the preventive care. And frankly, at this point, we're at a record low for teenage pregnancy in the United States of America. And we're at a 30-year low for unintended pregnancy. So why in the world would we try to reverse a policy that's actually working, where we're able to serve people. But to get to the crux of the matter, basically it was clear, and Jared Kushner did most of the talking.
Which is amazing, because I don't think I've heard his voice in 19 months, or whatever it is, 18 months.
Well, he was definitely
what does he sound
in charge.
Ooh. Sorry.
We'll do that later.
Yeah,
we'll do that later. No, but he said, look, you got to make a deal with us because we run everything. The Republicans are in charge of the White House. We've got Congress. Kind of like, we're making a deal. In fact, I say in the book, I think he thought Kirk actually, my husband, worked for Planned Parenthood, like it was a family business or something.
Right.
And he said, and here's the deal. I just want, if you all will quit providing abortion services to women in America, and maybe we could just have that in a headline, then we'll make sure you get money. I'll talk to Paul Ryan. And I was like, well, that is not going to happen. I said, look, we desperately
Did he really think you were going to go, oh, what a novel idea?
There was a lot of naivete in the entire, and also it was so insulting to the women we serve. I said, look, for a lot of women, we're the only place they can go for health care, including safe illegal abortion. We will never give up women for money. That sounds like
frankly, it sounds like a bribe. Well, you in fact say in the book, don't you? You say in the book you think it sounded like a bribe.
Well, those are words that people have used, and I think you can just draw your own conclusions.
I just used it.
Yeah, okay.
I'll say it. Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to contradict you.
Tell people I said it.
I'm not going to contradict you. I think, and look, and then the other thing actually, Ivanka Trump did say one thing. She said, well, my father is pro-life, as if that mattered. I mean, I said, so I have full respect for him to have that opinion, but he does not have the right to, because of his own personal opinion, to take away the right of every single woman in this country to make her own decisions about pregnancy. That's just not.
Are you at all? There's a conversation increasingly in Democratic Party politics about people who run for office as Democrats who say, I'm personally pro-life. Mm-hmm. But from a political standpoint, as an elected official, I would not do anything to get in the way of a woman's right to access reproductive health care services.
Right.
Tim Kaine was one of those,
yep.
right? When Tim Kaine ran with Hillary Clinton as her running mate, Tim Kaine is Catholic. Tim Kaine is personally, as he says, pro-life. Bob Casey in Pennsylvania is another example. Here in my home state, your state of Texas, there is a runoff for the Democratic gubernatorial nomination. One of the two candidates says, I'm personally pro-life, and there's been some roasting of that candidate by some Democrats for this for saying I'm personally. Do you have a problem with Democrats running for office who say I'm personally pro-life, but?
I have no problem with anyone having their own personal feelings about abortion. And one of the things I think is really is we've all missed is that the whole nomenclature of pro-life and pro-choice is completely outmoded and irrelevant to most people in America because it sort of puts us in some kind of political binary. The truth is, and we know this at Planned Parenthood, is that for people, abortion is a very personal topic.
Yeah.
It is so personal. That is why government and politicians shouldn't be interfering in pregnant people's decisions about what to do about their pregnancy.
Right.
And so to me, if someone can separate out their own personal feelings, I have full respect for that. But it is not the right of politicians or Congress or government to then interfere with women's decisions. And so I don't know that I'm not following the Texas race, but it's really interesting. I have seen over these last 12 years, 12 years ago, the Democratic Party was routinely recruiting people who were against abortion rights, and that isn't happening anymore in the United States. And I think that's important.
Although they're not rebuffing. I think is Conor Lamb not also in Pennsylvania?
Absolutely supports a woman's right to safe and legal abortion.
But maybe personally views.
Personally, and I don't. Again, that's fine to me. I think we have to respect people's personal views. It's just the question is, what do you want government to do?
Right.
And one of the things I write in the book about is actually the state of South Dakota, which you would, if you polled, you'd say, wow, a very, very conservative state.
Right.
In the state of South Dakota, the voters overwhelmingly defeated a ban on abortion. Same in Mississippi.
Right.
Because people can separate that out. And I wish that politicians could as well. And I think many of them can. And look, at Planned Parenthood, we have Republicans. We have Trump supporters that are our patients. We serve everybody.
Right.
Care no matter what.
You don't ask people on the way in like it's the census.
That's right.
Right. You don't ask a question.
Because you know what? Yeah. Everybody needs access to affordable health care in this country.
Doesn't matter, right?
That's right.
Often what is said by the people who oppose Planned Parenthood is that they make the case without necessarily being able to cite a statistic. You all cite one in response. That the overwhelming work done by Planned Parenthood is abortions. In fact, the percentage of what Planned Parenthood does that is abortions is what?
About 3%.
About 3%.
Yeah.
So really, what you said earlier about cancer screenings, The fact is, in a lot of rural communities where there's lack of doctors, people want to go to the doctor. They end up going to Planned Parenthood, even if they're not there to get an abortion. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that when clinics are closed in states like Texas, what they're doing is they're taking away not abortion services, they're taking away health care.
That's what happened in Texas.
Right.
That's what's happened in Texas.
Right.
And I mean, you've done, and but to give credit where it's due, the Tribune has done amazing work in really documenting women's health care and lack of access to care here and lack of access to affordable care. Look, I was in Paul Ryan's district the other day, the big proponent of defunding Planned Parenthood. We have 3 health centers in his district.
Yeah.
They don't provide abortion services. They provide cancer screenings, and I've met with women there who say if Planned Parenthood isn't there, there isn't anyone else to go to for affordable health care. Right. And those are the stories and the people that I think have to be heard in this process.
So you're willing to have a conversation with people who see this issue different than you are. We're living in a moment when people complain about how people don't talk to people they disagree with. We need more civil conversation among people of unlike mind. You're good with that.
I think we do all the time.
Right, yeah.
I think we do all the time. And I think the important thing, and it has been part of my education, I guess, and learning, and I hope we're always all trying to learn and grow, is that being able to acknowledge that people have deeply personal feelings about a topic, whether it's reproductive health care or abortion rights, is really important. And I think we can come together. The frustrating thing to me, because I don't want to give too much credit here, is the same members of Congress who are voting every day to try to defund Planned Parenthood are also trying to end access to birth control. They tried to trade away maternity benefits in Trump care, right? They're against women's health care all across the board. And that I think is really important.
This is a full battlefield assault.
The hypocrisy of these attacks is profound.
Yeah. I'm so glad to be reminded that all of this started in Waco, Texas. Right?
A great town.
A great town, a great city, and a great state, but an unlikely community if you think about it. If you imagine, where did Cecile Richards get her, where are her origins? This is it's a great story. Now, the actual basis for the name of the book, Make Trouble, the quote that you recall, actually, it was a Dallas story, not a Waco story. But you basically have a story behind how this book is called Make Trouble.
Well, that was my 6th grade teacher.
6th grade teacher.
In Dallas. Yes.
Said to you.
She said, "Little lady, you're just trying to make trouble."
Right.
And I realized, I guess I am.
Right,
So she named it.
She named it, right, yeah.
Yes. Although it was really, I really have to give credit to my principal here in Austin in 7th grade, who called me to the principal's office for wearing a black armband. And I'd never even met the principal before. It was like, wow, this is
great.
Big time here.
Yeah.
So there have been a series of events.
This was who you were from the time you were little, and how could you not be with your parents, right? Your mother was Ann Richards, the late and beloved governor of Texas, who had served in a number of different public capacities, but also had been a teacher,
right?
And was an activist on behalf of causes that might not have been as popular then as they are now.
That's right.
And took no crap from anybody. Your dad was a famous and revered lawyer, and still is.
Yep.
This was the family business you're entering, basically.
Maybe that's what Jared Kushner was saying. I don't know. I grew up in Dallas and my parents were against everything. I mean, it doesn't matter what was, it was like against everything.
Right.
So we came by it, honestly. And I think, though, if I can say this about Mom, because I think I do talk about her and the race and like her race for governor.
Yeah.
I think it's an important moment to kind of look back at that, particularly for all of us in Texas, because, she was never supposed to win that race.
Right.
She won that race because just crazy numbers of people showed up, and grassroots organizers just abounded, and we never had a poll showing us winning. But
it's often said that Clayton Williams not shaking her hand at the Dallas Crime Commission event at the Lowe's Anatole in Dallas, that was the reason that she won. That does not tell the whole story.
No. That was just like a lucky break we got.
Right.
But I mean, but I think it is. I think it is an important lesson, because a lot of the races that women are now running in and winning are ones where people say they have no chance.
Right.
And I do think it's a different moment right now.
Well, the more you swing, the more you hit. That's the old adage. And the fact is, right now, I saw a statistic just this week that there are the most women who have filed for United States congressional office
in history.
It's more than 300 now. They're not all going to win.
That's all right.
Right.
That's okay.
But it's a moment. It's a moment.
It is. And could we just? I mean, I'm always, as I travel around the country talking about the book and other things, I'm always talking about trying to send some good news from Texas. But barring unforeseen circumstances, we will have the first two Latina,
not one but two
Latina
members ever elected
going to Congress
from
this
Texas,
year
right,
from
yeah,
Texas, and
right.
that is a huge.
Well, what's interesting to me is, not to get too Texas-y, the state's population is more than half female. They've only been 155 members of the Texas legislature who were women elected in history, fewer than the number of seats in one legislature. Right. The political universe in Texas, like other places, is older, maler, and whiter than the community it serves. This does seem like a reset year as far as that goes, right?
Time for change.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So on the question of change, we have a few minutes left. Young people and women are two constituencies that people are looking to as 2018 arrives and as 2020 arrives. Everything you're seeing as you travel around the country, the notion that this is not just a moment but a movement speaks to you?
Absolutely.
Because the Women's March you mentioned specifically earlier, it was amazing. But then the question is, will the same people who came out to march ultimately show up to vote? They have to march to the polls for it to have an impact.
I'm 100%, and that's what I'm going to be talking about for the next several months until we get to November. But the thing is, you're right, the march could have been this flash in the pan where people just had a good time and felt better and went home. But the truth is, and of course we were first up, that the attacks on Planned Parenthood, those women, they left the march and they just got busy. I mean, the day Paul Ryan said he was going to defund Planned Parenthood, you couldn't get a call into the switchboard. It was flooded with women, and they went to town hall meetings. And in fact, one of the apps that helps people call Congress estimated that 86% of the calls coming to Congress were from women. Yeah. So women didn't stop at the march, but I agree with you. I mean, we can knit our pussy hats, we can go to the march, we can go to these town hall meetings, but voting, that's where
at the end
really
of the day,
happens.
nothing changes.
That's what,
So in the remaining time we have left, I want to actually spring on you a question about your your daughter.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because as we're going I saved it there at the end, didn't I? Because as we talk about young people and women as motivators of progress and change going forward, it's sort of a nice moment to kind of circle back to family, because I recall when your mother ran for governor that one of the ads that she ran featured her and Lily Adams, your daughter, her granddaughter, walking, I think was that walking on the beach?
Or on town. I mean, they used to walk the lake.
Somewhere along the lake, right, So that little girl from that ad has now grown up to have a career in politics herself, family business, right? She is one of the lead communications people for Senator Kamala Harris.
Her communications director
for California. She was a lead communications person on the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. Yes. She's been at the DNC previously, right? She has taken the baton from you as you took the baton from your mom.
I think I'm just the genetic link between Ann Richards and Lily Adams. That was basically
but I do think there's something to be said for the next generation is stepping up, and Exhibit A is your own daughter.
Well, of course, nothing I love more than bragging about my kids, and I've got two others, and they're just
I'm sorry not to talk about them,
No,
but
I know you know Lily.
We'll do another show on the other kids.
Exactly,
right?
the twin show.
Yeah.
But no, I think that, Lily's a good example, but what I'm seeing around the country is, and this is something that Mother used to feel so strongly about, because of course she spent a lot of her life raising kids before she ever had the chance to do anything else. Right. And then of course by the time she finally broke free, there was just no holding her back. But I think the exciting thing is I feel like young women now, they're not waiting for permission, they're not waiting their turn. Yeah. They're starting before they're ready. And that to me is how we're going to change this country.
So these Parkland kids who have been a great exemplar of that attitude, they're not really just the only ones, and that's not just situational. It's more of a sort of endemic or systemic thing that this generation is saying, we're not sitting back and letting other people tell us what to do.
I'm going to give you one example, and I do write about her. I was in Arizona. As you know, most members of Congress were not doing town hall meetings because they were just afraid of being
getting screamed at.
Exactly.
Right.
So finally in Arizona, Jeff Flake did one. The Planned Parenthood young people were organizing, and I met them. And they went off to Mesa, Arizona, but they were really smart, because one of them decided, I'm not going to wear the pink T-shirt and stuff because maybe I'll get called on. And so later that night, I was back in New York, and I see a stream coming across. Deja Fox, 16-year-old Planned Parenthood patient who relies on Planned Parenthood for birth control, standing at the mic, taking on a United States senator, basically saying, I'm a young woman of color. I've lived on my own. I rely on Planned Parenthood for care. What is it your right to take away the American dream from me?
Yeah.
And the entire room exploded. And this is a 16-year-old. And then, of course, she went on to go and fight for sex ed in her high school. She got that. This year, she'll go to college, the first in her family to go to college on a full ride in New York City. That, to me, is, I mean, young women are starting early, and that's who we need to invest in and support.
So, speaking of what people are going to do going forward, you have time on your hands coming.
A little, yeah.
Right. A lot of people have asked you this. I'm going to ask you straight away. Are you planning to run for elective office yourself? Because this is not the first time you've been asked that, even when you were in the old job, right?
Right, right. It's not my plan right now.
But that's not a no, Cecile.
Well,
if you're not going to do it, just say no. I've asked these questions before.
No, I know. Yeah. But, I mean, I know better. I'm Ann Richards' daughter. She said, like, never turn down a new opportunity, right? So you never
You're
want to
not foreclosing on the possibility.
I'm not foreclosing it, but it's not my plan. And I do think, look, I'm not trying to just fade the heat here. I think the thing is, there are so many good folks running, and there's so many women who need help, and I'm going to travel all across the country, and I'm going to turn out every single voter I can.
Correct.
Because I think it's on all of us to do more than we ever thought we could or should this November.
That's the thing you're going to do.
That's what I'm going to focus on.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
On everything you've done. Cecile Richards, thank you very much. All right, great. Thank you.
We'd love to have you join us in the studio. Visit our website at klru.org/overheard to find invitations to interviews, Q&As with our audience and guests, and an archive of past episodes.
One of the things I talk about in my book is I'm obsessed with food and with music, and that is a big part of my life. And you live in the, obviously, music capital of the universe here in Austin, Texas. Yeah. So I think it's really important. My biggest tip on therapy is I bake pies like a crazy person.
Funding for Overheard with Evan Smith is provided in part by Hilco Partners, a Texas government affairs consultancy, and by Claire and Carl Stewart.